Perfect. So thank you for the welcome, and I will say everyone, Susan and the whole team have been so hospitable here in Oklahoma. So thank you for having me. I've been to the state quite a few times, and like they said, I've been all around the country. It's so nice to just meet so many different people that have such a passion for their communities, and librarians, of course, have all the passion in the world to serve their communities, and it's what you guys do every day. So thank you for that. Like Susan said, we're going to be doing a creative workshop. Just a little bit of my own kind of housekeeping before we get started. The whole purpose of today is to come up with innovative ideas, kind of solutions to some of the challenges you can probably already think of, and I'll address some of those challenges too as well. In terms of the actual operations and the logistics and some of that, factual information from the census, the page that Susan mentioned to you, as well as the, there's a guide for libraries that ALA put out for the 2020 census. That's where you're first going to want to look, just to know this is the timeline. This is the information. Respondents can respond online, by the phone, by the paper mail out. A lot of that just overview information to have an educated background exists within all of those materials, just so you can be educated first and foremost to, of course, stop the spread of misinformation. Because I do so many of these workshops, people are like, oh, they can only respond online. That's such a challenge for this rural community. That is not the case. That's definitely a big selling point for more urban areas, more millennial generations. Yes, we can respond online, but for some of those that have language barriers, some of those that may not be completely literate, the phone option is an option. Of course, we have our standard paper mail out as an option. So I do want to, of course, just put out there that all of that factual information exists on the website that Susan had showed you that they did a wonderful job of putting together, and in that guide that the ALA published for libraries to reference. But then from there, we want to make sure that both literally and figuratively speaking, we're speaking the language of those community members that we serve. And that's what today's about. We want to get innovative. We want to get creative. We want to think more about just plastering up something on Facebook or plastering up a poster. We really want to think about how we can get to those hard to count communities. And that's what we're going to do today. It's 2 hours. It's very fast paced, and you're going to get a lot done in those 2 hours, but it's really fun. It's really exciting. So let's just go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Haley Ashcom. I actually am an intergovernmental affairs specialist, so I work primarily with local governments, and I do these workshops, and by the end of this, and you see the process of the workshop, you'll laugh at thinking of a bunch of mayors sitting around and doing some of the great creative work we're going to be doing today. But in doing that, I've really adopted this method of getting people to think at the core of the communities that they serve, really specific strategies and action plans to make sure that your community is counted. Because, I mean, libraries, more than so many different groups, know the importance of census. They know that it determines federal funding. Your communities rely on it, and your communities rely on you. So making sure that you bridge that gap and make sure that your community is counted is really important. I tell my elected officials all the time when I do these workshops that your libraries need to be a part of your complete count committee. Your libraries can start their own complete count committee. So bridging that gap is just really, really important. So of course, the decennial timeline, where we are right now is in this motivate people to respond area. And that's what we're doing here today. The census forms will begin coming out right around March 14th. They'll be coming out in different waves. And for the majority of the United States, that'll be an invitation to respond. So kind of a postcard that has online, via phone, or via requesting a paper mail out. They will be reminded 2 times. The 4th time, they will just be sent a paper form. And then after all of those efforts, if they have not responded by that point, that's when your standard door knockers start coming around. So by about the end of April, early May, after all of those reminders and things have come out, if people still aren't responding, is when those enumerators will start to come around. That's a huge thing for you all to be aware of and think about, not just promoting respondent for the census, but we also want to hire in your area. So think about ways as libraries you can promote the hiring of your local community members, because there's nothing worse than someone like me coming from Washington, D.C., knocking on a door. They don't trust me. They trust somebody that they know that lives down the street. They trust maybe a college student or someone that's retired or someone that just wants extra cash. So keep in mind that as we're working today, recruiting for employees for the census is just a large enough part of what we're doing here today, as well as promoting people to respond. This is the whole objective of the workshop. The first thing is to build connections. I could tell in the room, you guys already know each other anyway, but you want to make sure that not just the ideas you're coming up with, but some of those ideas and best practices that your colleagues around the room and around your table are doing as well, both here and afterwards. It's like, oh, hey, I heard that you were doing this. Let me give you a call afterwards. Let's collaborate on how we can maybe do this together to make it more efficient, cost efficient. You want to make sure you're building those connections. And then that model specifically should be duplicated when you go back to your communities. Build connections with as many community organizations as possible, because that's really how you're going to kind of hit people from many different angles to respond to the census. You're basically going to make your action plan. It says develop actionable concepts. The hope here is that you're coming up with ideas that are workable, that you have the resources for, they have the grants that you are able to apply for, which is amazing, because one of the biggest challenges definitely is not that you don't want to promote census, but it takes resources, both personnel resources, making copies, making print copies, things like that. Build momentum. I want you to all leave laughing and excited and census nerds, just like I am. I want you to leave here ready to tell everyone how sexy census is, because it is. So that's the whole thing. I want you all to leave just excited and amped up about census, and then showcase a model. You're not going to be able to solve every challenge that your community faces in 2 hours. Maybe your challenge is college kids. Maybe your challenge is a group of, your community members that don't speak English as a primary language. Maybe you have a group that is distrustful of the government. Maybe you have a group that, yeah, I get it. Maybe you have a very rural area. So you're not going to be able to tackle all of that today, but this model of thinking creatively, thinking in a very innovative way, even if you can only tackle one of those groups today, this is a model for how you can tackle all of those groups moving forward. So just think about your role. We kind of already went over that. Your role is libraries. You have a great role in promotion. You have roles in, potentially opening your doors to allow people to respond on tablets you have or computers that you have. Your community, you just have so many networks within the community. You have networks with the schools. So just think about the role that you play in your community and how you can leverage that role you already play to promote the census. These are the sprint principles. The biggest thing that I can say is avoid groupthink. The whole idea here is that we want to come up with as many innovative ideas as possible, and the model of the workshop does encourage you to avoid groupthink, because we're sitting in a room full of probably 42 type A, really eager people. If 1 or 2 people around the table speaks up and says, this is a good way we can do this, it's a good idea, everyone's going to start agreeing, and we might be missing out on some of those other ideas that exist around the table. So I will give you a time frame where everyone will silently, we like to be quiet in the libraries, silently work on their own, because we just really want to make sure that we're getting as many ideas out there as possible. Really, the whole idea is just trust the process. I've done this a million times, and it never ceases to amaze me how many great new ideas are coming out that I've never heard of before. We're not going to be sitting here talking about posting on Facebook. We're going to be talking about really, really exciting different ways that we can promote the census. And so this is the challenge we're all going to be working on today. And I went back and forth a little bit. I did a workshop with the Michigan State Library Association. And I gave different challenges to each of the tables. But it's actually, if you think about the psychology behind it, and you don't have to think about the psychology behind this, giving this challenge, which is how might we leverage our role within the libraries to best engage our local communities for successful promotion, involvement, and execution of the 2020 census. So those are kind of the three different categories I already explained. Promotion. We're promoting the census. The census is coming. We're educating. It's on its way. Involvement, having those people then respond. And execution, getting your local community members hired so that there's trusted people out there promoting the census. And the beautiful thing about each and every 42 one of you that read that is that means something different to each and every one of you. So as we begin to start working through this, you're going to be flabbergasted in the best possible way of how many different ideas come from just one simple question. So without further ado, I don't want to talk to you all any further. You don't want to hear my voice that much anymore. So we're going to get started with the process. And like I said, just trust the process. It's very fun. It's a little quirky. But what we're going to work through is first think of, now that I've talked a million times, who is your challenge? What kind of communities do you serve? Just think, top of your head, just put a persona to that. I always like to think as one of mine. I literally make the hard to count person my grandmother. My grandmother doesn't get her own mail. My family brings her mail in for her, and we trust that she goes through her mail. She is not good with technology. She doesn't even have a computer. If she reads the first sentence of a postcard that says you can respond online, that may put a mental blockade in her brain, even though she could have gotten to the third sentence that says you can get a paper mail out, which is what she would be comfortable with. So for that specific population, I personify my grandmother. Now that I live in Washington, D.C., I have a very diverse group of neighbors. My persona could be my neighbor, Jose, who does not speak English very well, and due to current events is a bit more distrustful of the government. So just personify. Think of those people you serve. It may be a person that comes into your library that you serve on a very regular basis. It could be a neighbor of yours that you're able to personify. There's just so much benefit in personifying that person. So just keep that person in mind as we move forward. So what we're going to do is solo ideation. Everybody has a little pack of sticky notes. Everyone grab, there's 6 at each table. I'll bring a 7th over for you. Everybody grab a little piece of sticky note. You all have a pen. There's some Sharpies at some of the tables. Can I borrow one of yours to give to her? Thank you. There's some Sharpies at the tables. Grab a pen, grab a Sharpie, grab whatever you would like. And for 10 minutes, I'm going to go back to the challenge statement. Answer that question. One idea per sticky note. How might we do this? These ideas could be events. They could be media marketing. They could be people that you want to partner with, other community organizations that you want to partner with. Think of that person that is hard to count that you serve at your library or just in your community in general. And write down one idea per sticky note of how we can solve this. And this is, I'll shush you all, this is a solo ideation. I want to see as many sticky notes at each table as possible. They're all colorful. I want to see a rainbow all over your tables. Just think of how, with your role at the library, you might be able to do this. I'll give you 2 examples from when I was in Michigan. I'm not going to give you too many because I want to hear your ideas as well. But the idea was working with the libraries and the universities at Michigan State and the University of Michigan. The hard to count population they were talking about specifically was college-age students, because of course they're very tricky. So they were going to make a challenge pitting University of Michigan versus Michigan State against each other because, of course, huge rivalry, huge contention. I think Oklahoma State football probably knows a little something about that too. So they're going to do a huge rivalry challenge between the two because during the census there will be, every couple of days, there will be a live tracker on the census government page as to areas that have responded and areas that still have yet to respond. So they're going to make a challenge. Further than that, the Michigan Library, specifically up on the Upper Peninsula, which is a very, very tricky area. If you've ever been to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, it's out there, and they really don't want anyone to come up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So they are going to partner with a couple local restaurants and food organizations to incentivize people to come because they will get free food, and they will provide library tablets to have people respond to the census. So those are just some of the creative ideas, but again, for the next 10 minutes, just 2 more minutes. Try to fill as many stickies as you can. I see a ton of rainbow, and I'd love to see more. Come up with when it comes to census. So what I would like for all of you to do is I've put a piece of poster board, sticky board, whatever it's called, on each of your tables. Go ahead, put it in the middle of the table. One at a time, you're going to go through and you're going to read out each of your ideas, and then you're just going to go ahead and stick them on the board. So with these groups of, 5 or 6, it'll probably take about 10 to 15 minutes. Share all of your ideas and stick them on the poster.
We're in Michigan or
Still, I see a couple Post-its that we weren't able to get to, but you can share those as we move into the next step. What we're going to do, and I know some of you already tried to beat me to this because you're very strategic and very organized people, but we're going to take all those ideas and categorize them. That could be, we're going to go ahead and cluster. So different clusters of like ideas, whether that's partnerships, whether that's hiring, whether that's media, whether that's events. I don't know all of the different ideas you guys have come up with so far, but there's a likelihood that there's some alignment on some of the ideas. So go ahead and cluster them. That's why we use these sticky notes. Now you can peel them back off and put them back down where you need to. Take about 7 or so minutes to go ahead and organize those. Good categories, a lot of good clumps. I've been reading some of the stickies and hearing some of the ideas, and I love all of them. But imagine in the next hour and 10 minutes, we do not have time to turn every single one of these great ideas into a full action plan. What I'd like you to do is, especially with the tables, these big Sharpies, take turns going around. You can discuss it as a group, or you could vote individually. I'm not married to either which way. Discuss which action or which sticky notes and which ideas you would like to turn into part of your action plan. Of course, there's a million great ideas on these stickies, and the whole point of this process is that you can do the same thing with every different idea that is on here. But for now, go ahead and decide which ones you'd like to develop into a full action plan. Take about 5 minutes. Out there to make sure they're making those connections. So that's the person you want to recommend, like, hey, if you haven't, really important one, 10 questions, 10 minutes. There are 10 questions on the form. It should take no more than 10 minutes.
that needs to be advertised.
So 10 questions, 10 minutes. It just speaks to the simplicity of the form or the online portal or the phone call. So what we're going to do next is, now that you've decided which ideas you'd like to expand upon, each of your tables has a develop your idea sheet. There's just one of them on there. So you'll have, on this sheet, there's different questions. There's a way of walking through to make this idea an actual actionable plan. And as you're doing this, of course, we're working through the ones you've chosen to work with. But remember, this is the same strategy. This is the same technique you can use to make any of those ideas you've come up with into an actual actionable concept. So just keep that in mind. Even though you'll be working with one, there's no reason that you can't expand the same project with all of the other ideas. And this timed out. Sorry, do you mind logging in real quick? Just there, and I'll put them up there. You'll be answering the questions on this sheet, but there, I'll put a couple guidelines that are just on a slide up here of things to keep in mind. So you want to make this happen. Who can you get involved to make this happen? Do you have the resources? Are there free resources? Is there something you're doing already that you can piggyback your idea onto? There we go. So that's the sheet. Is there existing events or ideas or resources you can piggyback on to make this easier for yourself? How are people going to find out about whatever your idea is? How does it make people feel? Are you talking to a group where they want to be activated? Are you talking to a group that needs to become more trustful and is a little bit weary of the census? So think about those people's feelings and their sentiments and how you're going to make sure that when you're talking about census to them, you're speaking to either their concerns or their excitement or their, need for education. Who can we partner with? Like I said, existing resources. Are there any references out there? A big thing that a lot of people do is they mirror some of their efforts off of voting efforts. We do this to make sure people are getting out there and getting registered and voting. I mean, today is election day. Happy election day. And so are there different kind of civic engagements or just activation calls that you've done in your communities that you can mirror that, but make it census? So just kind of keep all of this in mind as you're developing this idea so that instead of it just being an idea, it can be an actual plan. Like, okay, so I'm going to call this person, I'm going to ask this business, or I'm going to use this person at the library or these resources. Make it an actual plan. So go ahead, take about 20 to 25 minutes to go ahead and do that. Make sure everyone at the table is getting, a few words in. We want to make sure that everyone is heard, and go ahead and develop that idea. So one scribe per table. Clicker? Is it up there? It's up there. So we are moving on to the next portion that is an expansion of the idea you just developed. So you've come up with your idea, you've developed it into a more actionable plan, including the people you would need, the resources you would need, etc. And you've written it down on a sheet. So next, we are going to make it come to life. So I'd like everyone to flip over your poster board that has the sticky notes on it. That is sticky. All right, and what you are going to do is you're going to draw it out. You're going to develop a storyboard, in essence, making this idea come to life. There's a psychology behind it. I'm not going to get into it because I asked you to trust me from the beginning, but there is a psychology in actually drawing this out and making it come to life that is going to make you want to leave here and really make it come to life. So these are some better, like, that's really good. Don't do that. You can't do that. Do that. Draw a stick figure. Just draw it out. You'll have about 15 minutes to do so. There's Sharpies on your paper. You can use the sticky notes. But we'll just have those groups go last. What we're going to do is we're going to share because it's really beneficial. You've come up with really great ideas within your tables, but at the same time, a lot of the ideas around the room are likely ones that you can leverage at your, when you get back to your communities as well. So let's just start from the front. Yay. If you want to have one person hold, one person explain.
Here you go. I'll hold it up, Lori.
Okay, we want to apply for a grant to get some Chromebooks to put in all 8 of our branches and have a kiosk, which would have the slogan, 10 questions in 10 minutes. Plus, we would like maybe a rollout sign that, like you put questions on, or a wavy man that says, here, you can do your census. Plus, we would probably give them a sticker and a sticker that says, I'm counted, how about you? Is that what it says? I'm counted, are you? Thank you very much.
Yes. You guys want to go ahead?
So we are going to have a traveling census party, and we're going to go to places where our underserved populations are. So food banks, laundromats, where else are we going? Senior centers, we've got a nutrition center. So we'll take our devices, phones, tablets, laptops, etc. They'll fill out the thing, and then 10 questions, 10 minutes, 1 free taco.
Yes.
metaphor for just like a prize.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. That's so important. Using the technique to go to the people instead of expecting the people come to you. I love that. Thank you. And I've heard a lot of libraries do have kind of like mobile book centers and different mobile capabilities. So that's a great idea. So how about you all?
Okay. Okay. So we were thinking of ways to reach some of
Come up
our
here.
up here groups that may be a little more distrustful of the government. We're all in rural areas. We have lots of, more right-wing groups and folks that we still want to inform and let them know that this is for everyone. So we wanted to identify who are we not reaching already. Do research on not only identifying those folks, but how the census will benefit them. What can our communities get out of having a complete count? And that would be kind of tailored to their own interests. We're talking a lot about economic development. So then reaching out to those group leaders and making inroads. So we want to build those relationships, we want to meet up with them, and we want to offer to either just go meet them where they are. So we were talking about FFAs. We talked about like gun ranges. I have one in my community and want to go out there and talk to those folks and other similar groups. Or we can offer to bring them into the library and hold meetings where they can share their own ideas and concerns and get information is the main thing. So then the next step is just having those leaders that now we have partnerships with, having them go spread information into their communities with their good hats, and or we can offer our services going out to them. So we have some of those mobile labs. So what meetings, what events do you guys have coming up where we can take a lot of technology out to you and help you get through this?
Yay, thank you. Did you guys both finish? I know you were the two groups still drawing. So how about you all? Yeah.
So we're going to have Census Day at the library.
Taking a picture.
So we are calling all our volunteers and our friends groups, getting them together, getting them mobilized, setting our dates, putting the word out on the radio, newspaper, social media, doing posters and displays around town and in the library. And then we've got our Census Day at the library. And so we've got a little information table set up and welcome. We got another person over here to help them and answer questions. And we're passing out information at story time and helping people over here on the computer.
Great, thank you. And then you all? Yeah.
Library leadership will organize a committee with other community leaders and stakeholders and put together a handy brochure that talks about the importance of being counted, taking the census, and how that impacts the community, and distribute that at shelters. Oh yeah, our target population was people experiencing homelessness. And so reach out to shelters and pantries where that target population is.
Thank you. I got that one already. Do you guys want to go ahead next?
Okay, so our target population is a immigrant community that might be distrustful of the government and also with some English language barriers. And so we came up with a lunch and learn at their place of work over a span of several days after Census Day, where we could take some of our technology and go to them where they are already. And so this is our storyboard where we get together with different businesses, not only at hospitals and places like that, but we also have some industry in our towns, and so also with places like that. And then begging local restaurants, other food. Sometimes the library can't always afford to feed lots and lots and lots of people, and then getting the word out not only to the employees of the place, but also around, maybe you just happen to be near that place, and so come and get some, free meals and some free information. And also, we think that having multiple dates is really, really, really important, particularly at a place that's open 24 hours a day, so that you can hit all of the employees. My library has a digital marquee outside, so we also put it on the digital marquee, bringing all of our technology. And then here is our happy local speaker speaking to all of these people who are enjoying a beautiful, wonderful lunch and learning about the census and doing their census on all of our happy.
Yay. And last but not least,
the Duncan Literacy Council already does an annual Cinco de Mayo fundraiser. And we thought, okay, let's piggyback on that. It's going to be, of course, in the early part of May, so you're going to hit the procrastinators because the count goes through June, right?
it goes through like mid-May, and that's when the enumerators start coming through.
Okay, great. So we're going to catch the those who speak Spanish and maybe need some help there. Everybody else in the community that may need some assistance, and that's our target group, the procrastinators. So we have
It's amazing.
In the past, the Literacy Council has done the Cinco de Mayo fundraising themselves, but we're going to bring in some other people in the community, some businesses, city government, and we're going to make contacts. We're going to ask for things. That's a handling that's always funny. And then we're going to get the word out, and we're going to have fun and games. Music, mariachi band. We have a contest to come up with a already popular mariachi song with some new lyrics about the importance of the census.
Yeah.
And maybe a contest to put together a story time for young kids about the census. So, and then plus there will be, the bouncy house and all kinds of children's activities and a place to actually take the census. And there'll be information in both Spanish and English. And there will also be an incentive. Now, hopefully we'll get a restaurant that will give free tacos to everybody. In that case, maybe we'll give away eating. I don't know.
Great. All right. So I'd like everyone to give each other one more round of applause because these ideas are great. So before we conclude, and I know I want to be cognizant of everybody's time and stay right on time because some of you have to drive long distances home tonight. A lot of the questions that were asked, I will reiterate, can be found inside of this ALA Libraries Guide to Census. The timeline is in there. The various operations are in there. One of the big things, raise your hand if someone from the Census Bureau has contacted you already. Okay, so that's about, it's half, maybe 60%. For those of you that have not spoken, there are 1,401 local partnership specialists that were hired around the country to do just that, to make local partnerships, to help facilitate your partnerships with other organizations. If you go to page 13, Oklahoma is part of the Dallas Regional Census Center. If you contact the Dallas Regional Census Center and say you would like to be put in contact with a local partnership specialist, that is like your one-stop shop resource. That is the person that you can call with operational questions, timeline questions. The timeline that's available in here is generic to the whole country, but those are the people that will know specifically to the day and time, yes, this is when we're hitting these homeless populations, or this is when this neighborhood is going to get their wave of forms, etc. So if you're not already working with that partnership specialist, work with them, because the chances are also that if you want to get a taco company or a restaurant involved, that specialist may already be working with them and can bridge that gap for you. So make sure for all of that operational information that you are picking this up, reading it. The first thing you need to, of course, know is all the correct information before you start disseminating that information. And ALA did a really good job doing that. Next step, work with your partnership specialists. And really the last thing is all of these ideas were amazing. And the whole point was that they are actionable. So leave here and do it. Do these items or do these ideas. They're so good. And you'd be amazed at how something, more creative, more innovative will actually work to get those people in your communities. And then for some of those other ideas that you couldn't tackle today, expand on those and do just what you did here. So thank you all so much for participating, for your action, for your laughter, for your excitement about Census, and just for all that you guys do.